Welcome to Brotherly Discourse.
where you don't have to agree, just join the conversation with me, Oliver, and my brother.
Simon.
Today on the podcast, it's just the two of us. We don't have a guest, but I think that's okay. We can just talk to each other. So I think you have some things.
Yeah, so today we're going to focus more on kind of talking about ourselves and kind of the way we grew up. I have all the questions today, so these will be directed towards Oliver, but we can both touch on them, and I think it'll be kind of interesting just to see where we came from with the perspective different from others growing up as triplets. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to just go right into it, we can.
Yeah, I'm fine with just jumping right into it.
Okay, so right away we're going to talk a little bit about ourselves and growing up, and then we'll kind of transition to school and growing up, and then even more past that. So I guess the first question right away is, growing up, did you ever wish you weren't a triplet or see it from a different perspective? Or
No, I think to answer that question, I mean, I don't know what it's like to not be a triplet, so I don't know what I would be expecting to be different, I guess. I liked growing up with siblings my age, and I thought it was nice for, school. We were always in the same class. For sports, you and I always played at the same level, and it was just easy to relate to one another, since we were all the same age. Growing up, we all pretty much had the same experiences, so yeah, I wouldn't have changed anything. What about you?
I mean, kind of like what you said, we don't know what it's like to not have grown up that way. And, we get that a lot, especially when people hear that we're triplets, like, oh, what's it like to be a triplet? But I don't know how to really respond to that, because I would just respond, well, what was it like to not be one? Because I don't know. Yeah, so, we were always really close, and especially being from a small area, small school, most of the time we were in the same classes. As we got older, we took different ones, so then we weren't always. But that's kind of how.
For the most part, it was, yeah, pretty much the same.
Yeah. So, growing up, do you think each of us three had a different role, like a leader, or wild one, or peacemaker? Especially a peacemaker, because we didn't always agree with each other.
Yeah, I guess I don't remember as well as maybe you or Elsa, our sister, would, but I don't know if there was specifically a leader or anything like that, or a wild one, because I think, at least growing up, we were all pretty good kids, if that makes any sense. Like, we kind of did what we had to do. I mean, you and I were in sports, so there's kind of limits to what we couldn't do things that would get us in trouble or kicked off the team or anything like that. And I think we all, got pretty good grades, and nobody was super wild. I would say maybe peacemaker. I don't know. Who would you say?
I don't know. I think it depended on what was happening, because sometimes you would be upset with Elsa, or Elsa would be upset with you, or sometimes I'd be upset with you, or I'd be upset with her. So it depended on the scenario.
Yeah, I think it definitely depended on who was mad at who and who wasn't involved, because then they just kind of took on that role as a peacemaker. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think we were all just kind of our own different people and didn't have a specific role in the three of us. I don't know if you think anything differently, but
No, but it kind of does go into the next one, which is who got along the most together or not, or what certain situations would two of us hang out more with each other, with the other one not, or vice versa.
yeah, I mean, I think with the way it ended up working out, you and I probably spent more time together, just because of, I think a big part of it was sports, with all of our football games being together, all of our basketball games being together. And obviously, when we were young, she played sports too, but it wasn't co-ed, so it's not like we were seeing her at practice or seeing her at games. It for a while was, yeah, like you and I were doing pretty much everything together, and she was doing her own thing, and it was that way in high school too. But I mean, I think we all did our things together too, whether that be at home, like playing games or hanging out or whatever. I mean, time wise, it was probably you and I, but it probably equaled out.
Do you think it's changed now that we're out of high school?
I mean, I would say yes, because you and I are here and Elsa's an hour away, so we don't see her as much. But it's not like we see each other every day either. So, I mean, we definitely see each other more. I mean, we see each other once a week for this show. But yeah, I would say it's probably changed now. You and I see each other more, and it just is. That's how it is.
Yeah. Do you remember, especially when we were younger, any fights or anything specific like that with either me or her?
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely fights, and probably about stupid stuff at the time. Like, well, especially you and I shared a room, and who gets to play the Xbox, who gets to play the Wii, who gets this stuffed animal, just stupid stuff like that. But I think that's most kids, if they're even remotely around the same age and interested in the same things, you don't want to share as a kid, so fights are inevitable. I don't know if any of us fought. I mean, you and I probably fought more just because we were interested in the same things, but I don't know, we always seem to get through it. And
talking, and I've never asked you this, but talking about, all the time that we spent together, all three of us too, what was it like for you and her when I left between junior and senior year of high school for basic training? Did you guys get closer with me gone, or how did that kind of go?
I honestly don't even think we did, because we were kind of in our own worlds. I don't even know what she did that summer, but all I did was work and read. I was kind of like, I didn't know what to do with my time, so I just read all day, every day if I wasn't at work. And even if I was at work, I was reading too, or listening to an audiobook or something. So we definitely talked, and we would watch stuff together every now and again when we weren't busy. And I guess she had work too that she was busy with. And we would talk about you too, you being gone, and sometimes when you would call, we would be there together, and we were close, but I don't think it got closer or not closer with you gone. I think it just kind of stayed the same.
Yeah, that's fair. I think here's a fun one. Do you think either of our parents had a favorite of us three, or like how were each of us treated differently by our parents?
Yeah, I don't truthfully believe that either of our parents have a favorite of the three, but sometimes growing up it definitely seemed like, I don't know, that mom would maybe favor Elsa sometimes. But I think that it's just like different people require different attention levels, and I think maybe that's the reason it came across that way. And I don't know, I didn't ever think Dad had a favorite. I thought it was just we were all the same to him. I don't know.
Now this is a very broad one that I think could be a conversation, but how do you think it was for our parents to balance having three at one time, and how do you think they did and stuff like that?
Well, I don't know what it was like, because I mean, especially when we were young, because to us, I mean, being a kid, you don't think anything about how your parents are parenting or how much work it is or how much effort it is. I mean, maybe subconsciously to some extent, or you start to take on that stress sometimes, but I don't ever remember it being that way, and I thought they did well. I mean, we all turned out pretty well, I would say, and I don't want to say we're successful, but we're doing well for ourselves, and I think that they did well. And I'm sure it was really hard a lot of the time, especially when we were babies, and like, I don't know what I would do with three babies if I only had one other person. And obviously there was other people, other family and community members that helped out, but yeah, it was probably tough. I can't imagine being that way, but then again, that's the only thing I've ever seen out of parents. So I don't know, I thought they did well. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, and I mean, each of us kind of had our own individual relationships with them, in different ways. Like, I think inherently it would be expected for Elsa to be closer with mom on certain, feminine things and feminine interests, where I was probably, closer with dad when it came to working on projects and stuff in the garage. Or where do you think you really fell in with all that?
I was just kind of there. I talked to both of them, but not about. I don't ever think what they wanted to talk about. To be honest with you.
Do you think you have any mutual interests with either of them?
Probably not. Really. I mean, I would. Yeah, I'm trying to think now what I would ever talk to them about, but it was really just what was going on, not about.
So where do you think then because not that mom's more like Elsa, or Elsa's more like mom or anything like that, but I probably more into like working with my hands and on projects and stuff like dad. So where do you think your interests came from that's so different than me or than Elsa, or we're all of because we're all very into different things, so where do you think yours kind of came from?
I really don't even know, because I mean, I'm interested in a lot of the same things as you. I just don't like to work with my hands. That's probably the biggest thing, and I know dad likes that and I never did. I mean, sometimes it was fun, like sometimes we would do woodworking stuff together and that's fun, but I don't want to be tearing apart a snowmobile engine or doing a plumbing thing or doing any of that. I have soft hands and I like it that way. I'm not as into mechanical stuff or electrical stuff or engineering stuff, and I don't know why. Maybe because I saw dad doing it or you doing it, and I just like, maybe I need to have my own thing, and so I just kind of
I still kind of remember when we were still living at home. We weren't really young, I wouldn't say, but I'd go out in the garage to help dad work with some project or whatever, and I'd come in from the garage and I'd just see you down the stairs in the basement, chilling or playing a video game or something, and but I never really thought any less of you for it. Everybody's just kind of into their own thing. So
yeah, and I mean, there's definitely things, like for example with dad, I might not have the same interests in like rebuilding a snowmobile, but at least we can find mutual interests in like riding them. I enjoy that, and we can bond over that, once a year when we do our trip, or that we've started doing. And like with mom, I mean, we just talk really. It's not as much about like what we're talking about, I guess just being together, and I think that's fine to be that way. You don't always have to have the same interests or hobbies or anything like that. You can still love them and they love you, and you just hang out together, spend time together.
When do you think that, and this kind of goes for all people, which is kind of a thing that I've never thought about till right now, when do you think that relationship with mom and dad kind of changed from like such an authoritative figure to being more like somebody that you could approach with like adult questions and like speak to them as like a fellow adult, if you know what I mean? Like, when do you think that really flipped? And I don't know for myself, but
well, with dad, maybe when I moved out. Well, no, not actually, but I don't know, probably like 14 or 15, maybe 16, just kind of like when they started to see us more as adults or young adults, and realize that we have new things that we're trying to tackle and learn and that kind of thing. Probably with dad when I got a job for the first time, because I remember you and Elsa had jobs before I did, and I just kind of hung around, and he was like, you're not going to sit in my house and do whatever if you're not going to have a job. And not because he like wanted me to pay him or anything, he just wanted me to be productive. So I probably when I got my first job, and with mom, I don't know, I could always kind of talk to her about stuff. I think that's just different with mothers and fathers in general.
And that kind of like brings up another point. Do you think, with it being such, more specifically with mom being such like an open relationship to talk about anything, do you think that's kind of brought you to where you're at now? Like, mentally, and how you think about stuff, and just like how we kind of have this show and talk about stuff. Do you think any of that kind of led you to where you are now with the way you kind of think about things, and especially things that a lot of people our age wouldn't be thinking about?
I mean, like, what do you mean? Like, what? Think about what? Or talk about what?
Kind of how when we were younger, if you had a profound thought, you were always talking about it or
Yeah.
Do you think?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, probably. And I mean, it wasn't just mom, but also like our grandparents and great grandparent, and all that. I mean, when you are incentivized or encouraged to talk about things and deep things and thoughts that you have, I mean, even from a young age, that cements it in your brain. So I think probably I've never thought about it that way, but you're probably right. I mean, or your question is probably accurate to the reality of the situation. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, as a parent, obviously you should be the authoritative figure, but also kind of like what I said on the show last week with your students, like you are the person who demands respect and you're the authoritative figure, but also you want them to feel comfortable talking to you about any thoughts they have, if they're, like a creative thought, or if they're worried about something, or, that's kind of where, like, what you are as a parent, too. So I think that's important, and I think it helps kids in the long run, so.
And another thing that I thought about, and I wasn't going to make this into a whole big parenting thing, but now that we're kind of on the topic, growing up, we saw other kids come out like very good parents, whatever, but kind of helicopter parent, like, and it kind of causes that rebellion in them to kind of be a wild kid. How do you think it was kind of balanced for us where, there were expectations, but they weren't super hard pressed on us, or, they weren't always breathing down our back about things, but we just had our own self-drive and self-ambition to do that. How do you think that was really achieved? Or do you think it was purposeful, and it just kind of happened?
Well, I don't think every kid is like that, where they have a drive. And I don't think a lot of people our age are like that either. They're content with going into massive amounts of student loan debt. They're not going to class, partying, doing all that. I don't think everybody is like that. And that's fine. Not everybody's going to be the same. And part of it might come down to parenting too, which, well, probably a big part of it. But I don't know what they did to make us turn out that way. I mean, there was expectations, but like you said, it wasn't hard pressed. But I don't know. I think it just came from me, a sense of not wanting to let them down. Like, I didn't want to get in trouble because I was afraid of what they were going to think. Which I shouldn't make it seem like you should only do stuff because of what they're going to think. But it was in the back of my mind probably till I was a younger teenager. I mean, and I still want to make them proud. I mean, I think not everybody's like that, but it's probably not a bad thing. I mean, you shouldn't do everything to make people proud of you. You want to be happy and proud of yourself too. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they did. Do you have any ideas?
I don't know. And like, as we got older and we all had our own cars. I think I was probably the first one with a car, and then you were maybe the last one.
I was the last one with my own car.
Oh, how did that go when we all first started driving? I don't remember that. Do you remember? Did you just catch a ride, or
yeah,
what?
I just caught a ride. Usually with you, because we would have like practice.
Did you pay me?
No.
No. See, because we had the first vehicle, and it was kind of a problem.
Yeah.
And then I got my Cadillac. How long after did you get your car that you're still driving today?
When did you get your first, when did you get the Cadillac? What age?
I was 16.
Okay, I was 16 when I got mine too. Well, I got mine at the end of a summer.
So probably right before turning 17?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because I got in like in July or August, if I remember correctly, before my junior year.
Did you ride your bike up to work and stuff? I don't remember.
I don't actually either.
And
I think I walked sometimes.
I don't really remember giving you rides.
Well, I know I would drive other people's cars too,
Oh yeah.
but not all the time. So I don't remember. I
Yeah.
know from moms I probably walked to work, but yeah, I don't know.
I
I think that was
think-
part of the reason I got a car too for work and all that kind of stuff.
I remember just wanting one right away. And I think at that time you
I didn't have a job yet though.
No, but I think at that time I think you were kind of like going out with a girl that was out of town, so I think you were borrowing cars and stuff.
Yeah,
I think
that
that-
was part of it.
Yeah. Okay. No, I kind of forgot about that. But yeah, I probably got mine first, and then I also got one from Grandpa,
Yeah.
and then
And
you.
I bought one
Yeah.
after I worked for probably a year because I wanted enough money to buy it. I didn't want to, you know.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But no, we were, just talking about kind of that, self-drive and stuff, and that kind of brings me to the next topic of growing up in school.
Okay.
As like triplets, and if you think that affected us in school at all, and like I have here kind of the competition that I felt was there that kind of pushed me to like work harder in school.
Yeah. I think specifically between you and me, we competed for better grades, which
I think that's what led to a lot of my academic success was just the competition, and not
Yeah.
just with you but other guys in our class.
Yeah, I think it contributed to my academic success as well, but at the same time, I also wasn't afraid to not be as good to be as good at something as you, if that makes sense.
See, I always wanted to be better.
Like, I knew that you were better at like a math subject, so I just was like, fine, I'll just do better at something else or be interested in something. You know what I mean? Like,
Do you think that led you to any different interests? Just wanting to be different? Because
that's possibly the case.
that's another thing here I gloss over, which I didn't want to. Did you ever feel being a triplet defined who you were too much? Because I remember growing up and it was kind of irritating, like, oh, you're one of the triplets, not oh, you're Oliver, or
Yeah.
oh, you're Simon, or you're Elsa. It was just a collective.
Yeah.
Did that bother you?
Yeah, it bothered me. And now that you bring it up, it probably made me want to be different in some senses. And obviously, we ended up similar in certain ways. I remember when I told you I was joining the army, I think you were a little upset that I was doing the same thing that you had done, which probably stems back to the, like, wanting to be different or, being a part of something that I wasn't, which I get it. I do. But, like, back to the question, I think that might be why part of my interests, or some of my interests are different, because I wanted to be different from you or Elsa. So,
Yeah. So, and back to that competitiveness in high school, just with academics, and do you think that affects you anymore? Any sort of competitiveness? Because I know I felt it in high school.
yeah, I felt it in high school. I probably don't feel it as much now.
I don't think I feel it at all now.
Yeah, I don't think
Because
so.
I don't know what there would be to compete for.
Yeah, we are in very different situations. Like, I don't care what grade you get at school because your schooling is way different than mine is. And I don't care how much you make it work. Like, I guess that's the only thing I could think of being like a competition, but we have very different jobs and very different future career fields as well. So it's like not even I know that we're different and things are going to be different. So I don't even know what we would compete about anymore, except like stupid stuff, but I don't care about that stuff anymore. So
Yeah. And, we kind of touched on this next one. Did you ever feel pressure from me or Elsa? And then, did you ever want to stand out from either her or I, which we kind of talked
well,
about.
I think the only pressure would be like that competition that you had brought up, like maybe pressure to do better in school or to have the highest grades or like really that. I mean, because I know when we were younger, maybe we competed a little bit with like sports stuff, but as we got older, it kind of died down because especially with like a football, for example, like you were bigger than me, you were playing on the line, I was not, so like I didn't care as much about that. And basketball, I mean, I don't think you cared too much about basketball anyway, so I don't think like we competed with that. At least not once we got a little bit older.
And that pressure, that we're kind of talking about, do you think that was positive or negative? And I want you to answer that for yourself and then for Elsa, because I feel like, if you feel
I thought it was positive
for yourself,
for myself, because it made me push in a sense to be better, to be smarter for one, like grade wise, and also like comprehension and thinking skills or debate skills or anything like that. But for Elsa, probably negative, because I think that in some ways, which aren't things that matter, but she thought that she was probably like falling behind. At least that's the way I perceive it. And maybe one day we'll have to have her on here to talk about it too. And maybe that's what we should have done if we were going to talk about being, growing up as a triplet. But I don't think that she should have felt it in a negative way. But you can't control that, and her feelings aren't wrong. They're just different because she saw it in a different way, and there's nothing wrong with that. But
yeah, and then here a big question for you is like biggest influences, like individuals or like role models that you looked up to growing up, and anybody that's kind of like shaped you into who you are today. Maybe certain aspects of your life. So if there's more than one, I'd like to hear about it. Not that you have to name them by name, or if you'd like to, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a specific role model that I want to be just like, because I don't think I want to be just like anybody.
What about people that you looked up to or helped push you further academically, athletically?
I think as far as like education wise, once I got into high school, like pushing me to be better at school was probably our English teacher. And you might agree too. I mean, I don't think that you weren't in as many classes with her as I was, but I think that she definitely contributed to me doing better at school and taking harder classes, and also contributed to me wanting to be a teacher. So in that sense, I guess I'm not a role model, but somebody that influenced me in that sense. I think I don't know if there's anybody specifically. I mean, maybe our grandparents. I think I've said that before in like a job interview when they asked who influenced me the most. I think I said them just because I don't think a lot of people spend as much time with their grandparents as we did growing up. And I think that in certain ways, like their values or what they cared about, I think that influenced me in a sense, like thinking about family so much and wanting to, like all that kind of stuff. I think that it influenced me in that way, like my values. Otherwise, I don't know. I mean, as I get older now, there's people that I meet in my job that I want to be more like when it comes to like a professional sense. So there's not anybody specifically, but I kind of take bits and pieces from a ton of people that I think do well or that have had some kind of impact on me, and I just kind of mesh it all together and want to be like a conglomerate of all of those people.
Yeah. Here, before I move on, I wanted to talk a little bit about your Army Reserve service. But before, I'm just going to bounce back a little bit to the parent conversation. And now as you get older, just about 20 years old here and kind of entering, full adulthood, how would you like to see your relationship with our parents evolve? As you start to see or understand more of what they went through, as young adults and having children and stuff like that, how do you see your relationship with them evolving over the next 10, 20 years?
Yeah, I mean, I just hope that we continue to keep in touch, like talking as much as we do. I probably talk to Mom more than I should, probably once every 2 or 3 days. I just like to tell her what's going on and how work's going, and I like to tell Dad that too, but he's not as much of a small talker. So I mean, I talk to them about all the stuff that matters, and I hope that that continues and that I don't ever get too busy for that. And as far as like their role in my life goes, I would say they've always been like mentors for me, but now as I probably become a parent myself in the next 4 or 5 years, um, more as like a mentor for how to raise good children and raise children who are going to be successful and contributing members of society. Probably that way. I mean, they don't have to take care of me anymore. Like they haven't for 2 years now at this point. So it's kind of changed in that sense, and that's fine. They don't have to baby me or give me money or anything like that. Like now I see them more as showing me how to be successful like they were with us, probably. That's probably how I would.
And what do you think is like, you see it a lot with people our age or older, with their life being completely cash flowed by their parents.
Mm.
What do you think like the positive of us kind of being, I mean, not so much you still lived with a parent until about a year ago, but like, still being much younger than most people in our generation to kind of become financially independent from a parent. What do you see as like the positive of how it is for us compared to like, or is it a negative for people to, be with their parents until they're 25?
Yeah, I think it's important to get out there on your own. Otherwise, you're not going to grow up. I mean, you learn so much from being by yourself, and I've kind of enjoyed what I've learned from living by myself, not having roommates, not having somebody else who contributes to my, I wouldn't say household, but my
Financial situation.
yeah, there you go. I've learned a lot, and how I need to be smart. I mean, I've never been, other than when I first got my money, I don't spend a lot of money. I do my best to be as responsible as possible. But yeah, I think that you learn a lot when you're on your own, when you're independent, like you said. And I think there probably are quite a few negatives staying with your parents till you're 25. I don't think I think the only positive with that would be financially. And that's a financial negative to your parents. So, yeah, I don't know. Were you going to add something?
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, the people that argue for saving money and kind of like the market that our generation's going to go through, especially housing wise and stuff like that, that argument of being with your parents to save up.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be financial hardships. That's just the nature of the market, of the economy everywhere. It's not, you can't skip it. It's going to happen in every generation unless you continue to live with your parents for your entire life. So sooner than later, you're going to have to learn. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. So
how privileged do you think we were growing up compared to others? Like in the way we grew up and family structure and such. If you want to put it on a scale from 1 to 10 and elaborate.
Like 10 being the most privileged?
Yeah.
Probably like a 7. And it's not even because of financial situation, because it's not like we were rich by any means. But I think we were rich in the sense, again, this is going to sound cliche, but with having family, like having grandparents that cared, having a great grandparent that cares, and they all still do, and having parents that do, it helps a lot, especially when they're being supportive of what you're wanting to do. And I'm not saying that's being like, you're not going to have a job and I'm going to pay for everything so that you can experience whatever, but being like, yeah, I'm supporting you to go get a job and I can help you with this. Like if you, like my situation with my car with Dad, if you get a job and can put, because I bought a $5,000 car, if you can put between $2,000 and $3,000 in for this car, like I'll buy it, like cash wise, so I didn't have to take out a loan. I think that I mean, a lot of people would say that that's a negative because then you're not building credit or whatever, but I think that that was probably a privilege. I'm still privileged to not have a single loan out in my entire life, and I'm 2 years into college. So I think that that's privileged. But again, I think a lot of that just comes from having a supportive family, not anything financial. And I mean, it's not like we were poor, but we also weren't rich. So I don't know. That's what I would say about that.
Yeah, and like, I mean, you can't say we were hyper privileged in the way, you know, we grew up, because it came from a divorced household.
Yeah.
So there's that too, which, you know, it's probably more positive than not, but I mean, there's still negatives with it, right? So I mean, you know, I would agree with pretty much everything you said. I would maybe give us a 6 out of 10, but a 7's good too.
Yeah. I mean, I just say with the family thing, like, not anybody that I know, especially now that I'm in a serious relationship with somebody who isn't even as close as we are with our family, if that makes sense. Like, not as close with her grandparents, with extended family. Like, we see very extended family every 2 years, and we can talk to them like they're our uncles, or you know what I mean. Like, I think.
And what do you think the benefit of that is? So, you know, such an.
I think community and knowing that you have people that care, who, you know, and a lot of those people, like our great uncles or some of our cousins, talk to us about, you know, the line that we come from and how we're already living up to that, and knowing that you have had like a successful family and being told that, I think that just kind of makes you feel good, and it makes you want to keep pushing.
It gives you, you know, high standards for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I've kind of been reflecting on that myself. Like, you know, I enjoy what I do for work. For example, we'll take it this route. But, you know, with any job, it really sucks sometimes, especially being a plumber. But, like, for me, I'm just, you know, I have that higher goal of, you know, kind of wanting to do my own thing one day with it and own my own small business. And, you know, with something like that, such a lofty goal, you wake up every morning and you just want to achieve it. And not everybody's like that. Not everybody's ambitious. They're just content with, you know, just, I don't even know, just kind of being...
Rolling out of bed at 11, going to work a 4-hour shift at McDonald's, and then being like, well, I worked, I am making some money.
And I don't want to be judgmental to those people.
No, and it depends on the situation.
Everybody's different and we need everybody. But like you said, you know, ever since we were young, kind of hearing about that, you know, those that came before us and the way they approached work or goals, you know, larger goals for their life. I guess maybe it was instilled in me. I don't ever remember consciously thinking that.
No, I don't think so either. I probably thought more about it in the last year.
I honestly hadn't even thought about it until you just talked about it.
I think about it a lot sometimes, especially when I'm compared to people in the family and want to live up to that in a sense. If people see me that way, and that's probably different for you because you're compared to different people than I am. But yeah, I didn't think about it growing up. I think it was just instilled in me, knowing how hard not just our parents but also our grandparents and uncles and aunts and cousins and everybody worked. Not everybody in the family, but a lot of them, and that they were successful and doing well. It just makes you want to be that way. You don't want to be the one person, and maybe that some people might see that as negative, but I don't necessarily, because I think that success isn't just measured by how much money you make or if you're in charge of people or
and that's
leader.
And that's what I wanted to say too, because my goal is to be a business owner and hopefully employ people at some point, maybe not, but to be successful in however I do that, which will bring me a lot of fulfillment. But for you, it's something completely different. To be a teacher, you can find just as much fulfillment in molding minds and stuff like that.
I mean, because you can have teachers who make a ton of money in like a certain school district, for example, and they consider themselves successful because of what their salary is, but if they're not well liked by their students. If they aren't teaching their students anything, then they're not successful, in my opinion. So if I was a teacher that people respected and looked up to and learned a lot from, I would consider that successful. And it doesn't
bring
matter
you a lot of fulfillment.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how much money I make, like, at the end of the day. I mean, it'd be nice to be making six figures, but, you know, and maybe I will, but it doesn't matter to me anyway.
Yeah. So, well, that was a good one to talk about. I liked that. So now I'm gonna transition it to your Army service.
Yeah.
So, just start off with the simple, what made you join or what led you down that path, and tell me that story.
Yeah, so I think the thing that pushed me over the edge was college and paying for it. Because I remember Dad and I had a conversation while you were gone, and we were talking about college and school, and he's like, how are you going to pay for it? It's like, that's a really good question.
Well, why not just student loans like everyone else?
Well, I didn't want to live that way, and Dad also kind of convinced me. He didn't convince me to join, but he was like, you need to figure out something, like either a job that has some kind of repayment or something like that. And a big part of it also was I always kind of wanted to serve. Like, growing up, I loved reading like military books, and I was like, these people are so cool, and I didn't think honorable, but now at the time I would say that, like, growing up, I think you did too, would always read like the World War II, Vietnam books, and you're like, I want to be like that. Not like you want to go kill people, but you're like, you want to be a part of something
bigger than yourself.
Like, you want to be all you can be, as the Army would say. So I think that was a big part of it too. And just, yeah, I mean, to do something that other people weren't doing. And I'm not like, I'm sounding like a recruiter right now, but like, I'm not trying to do that, but it definitely does make you feel not better, but it makes you feel good about yourself. And you're like, even though I'm not always doing something crazy, you just kind of think, I'm making a difference, even if it's in a small way. So, and obviously that depends on what you're doing. Like, if you're deployed, if you're doing in the National Guard, like state active duty for a flood or something, it just really depends. But
or in Chicago right now.
Yeah. So, but no, that's kind of the reason I joined. So, and I don't even ask me why I joined the Army Reserve over like the National Guard, for example, because I don't know. It happened to be the recruiter that I talked to first.
So how has your service changed you, or kind of, changed you in the past 2 years or however long you've been in?
Yeah, 2 years now. It's made me more patient, probably, because you can probably vouch for this. In the Army, you deal with a lot of stupid people, and a lot of stupid people that outrank you. And
you're on the record saying this.
Yeah, but I'm not nobody specifically, and it's not because they're intentionally trying to be dumb. It's just because maybe they don't know your job, and they want you to do something, and it doesn't fall under what you can do. But anyway, otherwise I would say, like, I've always respected authority, but having a drill sergeant scream 2 inches from your face is definitely an eye opener to authority, and you really are nothing.
They can touch people now.
Yeah, they can. So, but no, I remember, because I just started dating Jana before I went to basic, and I think that, I don't know, she would have to speak for it herself, but I think that's something that, I don't know if she's ever told me, but something that maybe I believed her to think was that maybe it would change me in a sense, like going for 4 or 5 months or whatever it was for basic and my job training. But I don't think it like changed what made me me. Like, some people it does change, which can be a good thing or a bad thing.
I think at least basic, this isn't talking about any deployment or anything where it can actually change you and trauma and stuff, but basic, for example, I think it amplifies what's already there.
Yeah, I was gonna say that exactly,
because you have so much time just yourself, like how you explained that summer you had to just yourself, and like, you sleep in a room with 60 guys, but you still feel alone.
Yeah.
And it's just you and your thoughts. When you hit that bunk at the end of the night, it's just you. So I think really it just kind of magnifies what's already there. positive or negative,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if you're a good person or objectively a decent person, you're gonna stay the same. Like, it's not gonna make you a worse person, but if you aren't a great person or a great guy or gal, you're gonna get some like weird superiority complex and not be a very nice person to be around.
And
So,
I've met a lot of people.
I've met
like
a lot
that.
of people that way too. So
So, what was your biggest challenge while serving? Probably from basic sometime, or
yeah, I would say probably. I mean, physically I did fine, and I wasn't super like I wasn't Superman. I wasn't the best there by any means. Again, it was probably the mental thing, being away for so long, being away from family, especially with how close our family was and still is, being gone from those people. And also, like we covered in our episode with Jana, I had just started dating her right before I left, so that was a challenge for sure. And yeah, I mean, because you're like afraid being gone in a sense that your relationships aren't going to be there. At least I was, but all important relationships are still going to be there. And like mentally, like you said, you feel so alone, and you really are. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat that, because like you have people that you like, that you get along with.
but they don't have your best interest in mind.
Some do, but
Some do,
At the,
but-
at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because you just met them, and like you get really close with some, and I'm still close with some people that I went to basic with to this day, but they're not family. I think that you need to go through something a lot more grueling, like a combat deployment, for example, to really just become brothers like that. So I mean, basic's hard, but it's not that crazy. And
So tell me what that moment was like when you graduated, or when it was family day or whatever, and you saw Jana, because you didn't know she was coming, did you?
I didn't know. Yeah, I knew that family day. Well, before I even left, I knew that mom was gonna be there, and that dad was not. Because I asked him, and he was like, "No, I don't think so." So I knew that mom was gonna be there, and I started dating Jana, and she was writing me every day and stuff. And I remember writing a letter saying like, "It'd be so crazy if you could come, but I know you can't, because like getting ready for school like a week before school started or whatever it was." And I remember, because you know how it goes on family day, you're standing in formation waiting for a
Did
family.
you see her approaching?
No, I didn't. So I was you were probably the same way. You're like looking in the stands trying to see your family when they're coming down, and I saw mom, and I just saw her because I just expected her to come, and then she kind of like moved, and behind her I saw somebody, and I was like, that kind of looks like Jana, but I didn't want to think it, because if it wasn't, you'd be sad. So it was a, I don't even know, I don't have the words to necessarily describe it, but it was a good experience. It was a great experience to see her, and I think that was,
Emotional.
yeah, it definitely. I mean, family day is emotional no matter what, because you haven't seen your family in probably the longest for most people at that point in their life. So, but yeah, it was definitely emotional, and yeah,
Well, I mean, I went through the same thing, and I was dating my ex at the time, and we had been together longer than you and Jana had been, but it was we knew I was gonna be leaving, but I knew she was gonna be there,
Yeah.
so I didn't know what it was like to not know, and because even for me, I knew she was there, and I was standing in formation. And I saw mom first, of course, and she gave me a hug first. But then Allie, my ex, was there, and that hug and everything. And then Elsa and Allie's mom was there as well. And it was such a great experience. And after you've been on your own for that long and went through all that, which is probably the hardest thing a person has done in their life up to that point, and then just to be reunited with people that mean so much to you. I mean, it's something I'll remember forever.
yeah, no, I agree. I sometimes still think about it, because I have pictures from it on my nightstand and all that, and it was a good experience. It was one of the happier days of my life, honestly, because you just feel so like it's so rewarding because you're like, because when you're going, you're like, you watch all these YouTube videos and you're like, can I do that? Can I get through that? And then you finally do, and you feel so cool. You're a soldier now. You're all that, and yeah, it was a great experience, I would say.
You know what you're talking about? Just a rewarding experience. Tell me what it was like receiving your first Army Achievement Medal.
Yeah. So I had the privilege of going to Morocco for my first annual training in the Army Reserve as a part of African Lion. It's a multinational training exercise that they do every year during the summer, like April through the beginning of June, not just in Morocco but also Ghana, Senegal, and Tunisia. And yeah, it was not just the achievement medal. I don't really even care about that, but Morocco was cool, and I'd like to talk about that more. Not maybe today, if that's fine, but it was a very probably humbling experience, I would say, to see a country like that. And Morocco is a beautiful country, but there are definitely parts of it where you're like, wow, I didn't know that. Like, that places like that exist, but it's like you don't ever think you're gonna see it, and then you see like the slums of a major city in an African country. Like, it's very strange, but also it makes you happy to know where you come from. And yeah, I mean, the whole experience was good. Again, I don't think I've ever said it on here, but I'm an ammunition specialist in the Army, so we were doing ammo operations for, I don't know how many units were there. I wasn't in. So when I got there, I was in the city of Agadir, Morocco, where the planning was kind of happening. Everything was planned before anybody went there, but then there was also planning for each separate operation that was going to happen. So I was on, for some reason, the first group to go, and at the time I was in E3 with the next lowest rank was staff sergeants, and then, well, there was a couple E5 sergeants there, but then otherwise you have majors, lieutenant colonels, a colonel was there while I was there, and you're working with all these people, trying to explain ammo, trying to explain what you guys can do, what your plan for stuff is, and it was definitely interesting because I got to do a lot of things that a lot of people my rank probably wouldn't do, and a lot of people just my age, and just not even just the Army, but any occupation would get to do. And yeah, I mean, I got the AAM. I think it was for being a leader when I went early, for working above my rank and all that, and also helping out with other units, like moving water, for example. As I'm sure you can imagine how much water you go through because I think once we actually started the operation, which was in the Saharan desert, we had at most probably, it was between 800 and 1,000 people on one camp, and we had running water, but only for showers. You couldn't drink it, you couldn't do anything. They don't even want you to shave with it. So we had pallets and pallets and pallets of water. I think one day, what was the number? We ended up moving 22 pallets by hand of water because they broke. And we were doing it with forklifts, but obviously that didn't work once they broke. So I think that was also part of it. And I mean, it's pretty cool when a colonel walks up to you and is like, you did a really good job. And then he was telling me about his first AAM in Iraq, and it's a cool experience. And yeah, it was cool, and it meant a lot at the time. And it's one that I'll never forget because I was in a different country, and they even presented it to me while I was standing in the middle of the desert around all the tents and stuff. So it was really cool, and it was cool for my unit because I was still pretty new to the unit when we went, and for my commander to recognize me that way, and then the NCOICs and all that, it was rewarding, and it was cool. So
very cool. Yeah, I mean, if there's anything you want to talk about before I ask my final question, or if you have any questions for myself before I ask my final question.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add about anything that we've talked about so far. I'm ready for the last one if you want to ask.
Yeah, so how do you think our childhood between you, myself, and Elsa shaped where we all ended up today?
Yeah, I mean, our childhood was all pretty much the same, and we all ended up in very different places. So I just think for all of us, the like what we kind of talked about a lot earlier, like having a drive to be better, to succeed. I think that was that was instilled in all of us, and yeah, I mean, that's probably been a big part of where we are with pursuing pretty high goals, I would say, for all of us. And yeah, I mean, it was very positive. I don't know if I can speak any more specific to it. I don't really know how, I guess. But yeah, I mean, we've all had our own like struggles, but right now I think we're all in a pretty good spot. I don't know if
So would you say here, because by the time that our next show releases, will all three of us will have turned 20? Would you say that you are satisfied with your first 20 years of life and what you've accomplished up to this point?
well, I don't think I'll ever be satisfied, if that makes sense. But I have no regrets. Like, I can always be doing better in many, many, many different categories of my life. But I've enjoyed it. I love my life. I don't have any qualms with where I'm at. I enjoy my job. I enjoy what I'm going to school for. I even enjoy the army a lot of the time, which isn't always the case. But anyway, no, I in the way that you're asking it, yeah, I'm satisfied with where I'm at. I'm happy. I can't imagine it being any better, really. I mean, yeah, I don't really have anything to add other than that. Are you satisfied with where you're at?
Yeah, so, within the past 2-3 months, a lot has changed in my own life where, I kind of thought I had it all figured out. And then I found out I didn't have it all figured out. And a lot can change very quickly because a lot of where I found satisfaction was my relationship or my relationships with many people. And now I've found peace with where I'm at, and that's important. And I think that there's a purpose with everything, as I think you would think the same. And so I'm not satisfied, like you said, but I'm pleased with where I'm at. And my situation has really helped me focus a lot on things like pursuing a deep relationship with God again, and really focusing on my career and my goals career-wise and financially, and just really honing in on that. So yeah, from those perspectives, I'm very pleased with where I'm at now. So
Yeah, and I think that's important to be happy. I mean, you can't change anything. I mean, you can do better, but where you're at now, like, you can't change what's already happened. So I think it's important to be happy, to find peace with that, like you said. So yeah, I think that's beautiful. I think it's I mean, a lot has changed in your life, and I know you struggled with it for a while, but
and it's something, you don't regret it either, because like we talked a lot about in this episode, things from our childhood or whatever that have made us into who we are now, and it's just another thing like that. So that's what I'd say to anybody, different scenario or whatever, feeling that way, it all builds you into who you are going to be in the future. So
yeah.
positive or negative.
Yeah, that's very true, I think.
So
Yeah. Do you have anything else for...
I don't.
Okay. Is there anything that you're looking forward to in the next week before our next episode goes up?
Yes, so tomorrow, a group of us are going to the Turning Point USA event on the University of North Dakota's campus. I'm actually quite looking forward to that.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
I am also I am very much looking forward to it. I remember getting tickets after Charlie Kirk's passing. I was going to get tickets before too. I just had kind of forgot about it, and once that happened, I knew I had to go. Not because I specifically, you know, ultra agree with everything that they're going to talk about, but I think it's important even for people who don't agree with what is going to be talked about by Glenn Beck, the radio broadcaster. But yeah, I think it's an educational experience, if not anything else. Not every day do you get to go listen to somebody with that presence. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun and very educational, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. It'll have already happened by the time this episode gets posted. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun and very interesting.
What about other things before the next episode? Is there anything else you're looking forward to? Our birthday is next week.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that. Yeah, that should be good. I don't know if we're gonna do too much for it, but it should be good to see some people, to get the three of us together, hopefully. And yeah, I mean, see some family and such, so it'll be good. Birthdays are always fun. I mean, it's not super crazy or anything, but I enjoy it, so that'll be a good time.
Yeah, it's kind of fitting for the release of this episode to be a few days before our birthday, as I feel like it's kind of in line with the topics that we discussed today.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
do you have anything to add about maybe future guests or anything? Or do you not want to give anything away?
Well, I can't give anything away because we don't have anything lined up currently. Well, we do, sort of.
Yeah.
But I'll keep that secret. I'd like to get people on for many different topics, but I'd like to talk more financially. Maybe, I don't know if that would be with an advisor or something along that line, but I think it'd be a good topic to have, especially for a younger people, younger audience, or anybody, I guess. It's a really important thing. So yeah. Especially in the world we live in today. So yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. I don't want to give anything away or anything that we're planning currently, especially since, like you said, we don't have anything for sure planned, but we're working on it. We'll get some pretty interesting stuff out in the next couple of weeks, I think, personally.
So, okay.
All right, well, if you have nothing else to add, I think we're about done for this episode.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for your questions. I think it ended up very interesting.
We could almost title it an interview on you.
Yeah, honestly, it kind of ended up being like that, so... But yeah, thank you for the questions. A lot of them made me think about things I haven't thought about in a long time.
You brought up some stuff that I kind of had forgot about, so I had a good time with it, really.
Yeah, no, thank you. I thought it was a lot of fun, so... But, alright, well, thank you guys for listening to this episode of Brotherly Discourse. We'll see you again next week.